It began on a quiet evening when the silence in the house felt heavier than usual. I thought I was safe, hidden behind the walls I had carefully built to protect the parts of me no one was ever supposed to see. For so long, I had carried feelings I dared not speak aloud, longings I buried beneath routine and duty. I told myself they didn't matter, that they were just shadows I could ignore. But fate has its way of revealing truths when you least expect it. That night, he walked in. His presence filled the room in an instant, and when his eyes locked on mine, I knew everything I had tried to hide was no longer a secret. My heart pounded as I froze, wishing I could turn away, but unable to move. I expected him to leave, to pretend he had seen nothing. Instead, he stayed. There had always been something unspoken between us. A glance that lingered too long, a smile that warmed me more than it should have, a silence that carried more weight than words ever could. I had convinced myself it was nothing, that it existed only in my imagination. But when he looked at me that night, I realized he had felt it too. "Don't look at me like that," I whispered, though my voice shook. He stepped closer, and in the stillness of the room, he replied, "Like what?" I swallowed hard, unable to hide the truth anymore. "Like you know what I've been hiding." For a moment, the silence pressed down between us. And then he said words that stole my breath. "I've always known." It was disarming, frightening, and comforting all at once. I thought I had been careful, that my secret longings were mine alone. But he had seen them all along, hidden in the way I looked at him, the way I hesitated when he was near. And instead of judgment, his eyes held something else entirely: understanding, desire, and the kind of truth I could no longer deny. I should have told him to leave. I should have built my walls higher, stronger. But I didn't. Something inside me ached for him to stay, and the closer he moved, the weaker my defenses became. When his hand brushed against mine, the smallest touch, it sent a rush through me that I couldn't explain. My body trembled, but my soul felt alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. "You shouldn't be here," I said softly, though the words held no strength. His reply was simple, steady. "And yet I am." It was then I realized I didn't want him to go. The truth terrified me, but it was undeniable. For so long, I had lived in silence, keeping my heart locked away. But in that moment, silence was no longer possible. "Why now?" I asked, my voice breaking. He didn't hesitate. "Because I can't pretend anymore." Neither could I. He gave me the choice. "Tell me to leave, and I will." His words were soft, but his eyes burned with something deeper. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Every part of me wanted to resist, to cling to the life I had built, the safety of pretending. But the truth was stronger. "Stay," I whispered. That single word changed everything. Time slowed around us, and the room grew heavy with the weight of everything we had left unsaid. When his arms wrapped around me, it wasn't reckless. It was gentle, certain, and filled with a tenderness that broke through every wall I had built. I didn't just feel held. I felt seen. He had uncovered every secret, every longing, every ache I thought I had hidden, and instead of turning away, he accepted it. The hours that followed were a blur, yet clear in memory. We didn't need to say much. Silence carried its own language, and every breath, every glance spoke louder than words. I found myself opening in ways I never thought I could, sharing thoughts, fears, even laughter that had been buried under years of restraint. With him, I didn't feel judged. With him, I felt free. When the dawn came, reality crept in with the light, and for a moment I wondered if I should regret it. But the thought never lingered. Instead, I realized that regret lives only where truth is denied. What we shared wasn't a mistake. It was an awakening. The days that followed were quieter on the surface, but inside me, everything had shifted. I carried that night like a secret flame, burning softly but steadily. Life continued, conversations, routines, responsibilities, but beneath it all, I felt lighter. My heart no longer dragged me down. It carried me forward. I smiled more, laughed easier, breathed deeper. The emptiness that once haunted me had been replaced by something I didn't know I had been missing: hope. I noticed the way he looked at me after that night, not with questions or uncertainty, but with a calm certainty that steadied me. His presence became my refuge, and even in silence, I felt less alone. We didn't need to speak about it often. The connection lived in the spaces between words, in the simple glances we exchanged when no one else was watching. And yet, I knew the world outside us wouldn't understand. People see only what they want to see, and they judge what they cannot feel. But I had stopped caring about their voices. For once, I chose my own. Some stories are not about right or wrong, but about courage. The courage to stop hiding from yourself, to admit what your heart has been whispering all along. He saw me when I was most vulnerable. He saw what I had tried so hard to keep hidden. And instead of walking away, he chose to stay. That was enough to change everything. I couldn't turn away from him. I couldn't turn away from us. And most of all, I couldn't turn away from the love that had been waiting silently all along, patient and unyielding, until I was brave enough to face it.